So I've finished with this project now. I'm just going to close it by closing the sequence, click on the little X, and then if I click on the hamburger thing next to keyframes, I can choose to close the project. I don't want to save. Okay, so that can take me back to the new project space, and I'm going to choose a new project. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to locate where I put it. Number 3 video effects for me. And okay. I'm just going to locate my folder with assets in it and import both of those. I've got 2 groups of items here. I've got some footage, which has some video images, video recordings in it. And if I click back, I've got an assets pack. I've only got 1 object in there, and that is a dust and scratches overlay, which we will look at in a minute. So I'm just going to go back up and back to the footage. So my plan is to rescale and keyframe the 4 pieces of footage. So we have a piece in each quarter of the screen. I'm going to start by grabbing my first piece. I've already trimmed all these to 8 seconds, so I don't need to go through the source monitor. I'm just going to grab my first one and drop it on the timeline, and I can drag it out a little bit there. Okay. Some of these clips have got audio attached, and I don't want the audio, so I'm just going to left click on it to select it, right click and choose unlink, and then that separates the audio from the visual, and I can just left click on the audio and delete it. So there's my first clip. I want to scale this down into one corner of the screen and line it up. So to do this, I really need some guides. I come up to View to make sure that the area is selected. If I come up to View, I can choose to show rulers, and that will bring me some rulers. So I can measure things more accurately. I can add guides. I can add guides either by just dragging them down in this way. So pull one from the rulers, I can do that left or right. Or if I want to be more accurate, I can add guides through the view window. So I'm going to choose 50% guide because I want it to be exactly halfway and a horizontal. And that's put me a guide in. I'm just going to go back and choose another one. So add guide, 50%, and this time I want a vertical guide. So I'm going to go to vertical. So that's given me my 4 quarters ready for my up to view. I can choose to show rulers, and that will bring me some rulers. So I can measure things more accurately. I can add guides. I can add guides either by just dragging them down in this way. So pull one from the rulers, I can do that left or right. Or if I want to be more accurate, I can add guides through the view window. So I'm going to choose 50% guide because I want it to be exactly halfway and a horizontal. And that's put me a guide in. I'm just going to go back and choose another one. So add guide, 50%, and this time I want a vertical guide. So I'm going to go to vertical. So that's given me my 4 quarters ready for my image. So exactly the same way as we keyframed before. Exactly the same way as we keyframed before. I'm going to select it and find it in the effects controls. And at the start of the clip, I want it to be at full size as it is and in the position it's in. So I'm just going to toggle on the position and scale for size and position. By the end of the clip, I want to have shrunk it and moved it. So by the end of the clip, I'm going to scale it to 50% because I know that will work. And I'm just going to position it by clicking on the word position and dragging it into place. And I know I'm in place because I can line it up with the red dots and the blue guides. So that's the first clip. If I play that through, it will shrink and move. So I'm going to do the same with the other 3 clips. I'm going to grab the second one and drop it on. I'm not going to overwrite what I've got. I need to make sure that I'm on a track of its own. Select the audio, right click, choose unlink, left click on it and delete it. And then select the drums layer in the effect controls panel, toggle on the position and scale, move to the end, change the scale, and change the position. I can go back in. I've missed the end off there, so I'm just going to go back into the effect controls and drag the scale so it's in line with the other one. So next we've got some guitar. I'm going to do exactly the same with that. Drag it onto a track, get rid of the audio, unlink the audio and delete it. Toggle on the position and scale, move to the end, change the scale and move the image. Come back. I'm just going to, I need to fit another video track in there. So if I just hover over the gap between the video and the audio tracks, I can just pull those down so I've got some room for another one. And then I can either just drop the track in or I can create a new track. So if I just drop it on, it will do that for me. I'm going to make a new sequence to work on now. So I'm going to go up to File, New, and down to Sequence. And down here I'm going to give it a name. So I'm going to call this one Blur Effects. Okay, so that's given me a new sequence to play with here. I'm going to choose any of these clips. It doesn't really matter which one you pull out. So I'm just choosing guitar 005 there, but it doesn't matter which one you choose. If it had sound, you might want to just mute it or unlink it. So that's the clip. And I'm going to add some simple effects to this. So if I look across this top bit here and double click on the effects, I can confirm the workspace reset. That's fine. And it will take me into this panel where the effects show up on the right hand side. And I can drop these down. So I'm looking in video effects, similar to how we found the video transitions. I'm going to start with a blur, so I'm going to choose from blur and sharpen and make sure my clip is selected and just choose a Gaussian blur. That just gives a nice overall directional blur. If I look in the effect controls, there's my Gaussian blur, and I can choose whether I want it to be horizontal and vertical, horizontal and vertical. And I can choose how blurry it is, so I can just scroll over that and you can see straight away the effect that's had. So no blur, lots of blur. I grab another version of that track out, I've just dragged it in there. And this time I'm going to choose from the distort panel. And again, doesn't really matter what I'm choosing. Try 12. I just turn up the angle there. You can see there are lots of simple effects, they all work in the same way. You select the clip, you add the effect, double click on it or drag it on, and then adjust the parameters in effect controls. You may now find you have this red stripe here. I'm just going to explain the rendering. When you add your video clips or the effects or the transitions to the timeline, Premiere can play that back straight away. But it hasn't rehearsed doing that. It's the first time it goes through. So rendering the section of the project means it creates a preview clip that's hidden behind the scenes, and it just makes everything more smooth. It's where Premiere pulls all the information together and irons it out. A part of your footage that shows red is telling you that it hasn't rendered that footage, so what you see, what's playing back, might be jerky, it might be missing frames, it's not pulled together properly yet. You press enter on the keyboard, you get this box here, and it just goes through your video previews, checks everything through, confirms it all, and now it's turned green, the line above's turned green, and that should now play back at full resolution. It should all be good to go. So yellow bars mean that it's not rendered, but it doesn't need to be. There's not enough information to cause a problem for Premiere. The green bar means that it is good, all done, and a red bar means you need to render if you want to watch it properly, if you want it to play properly. So I'm just going to grab one more from here, and this time I'm going to look at noise and grain. And I'll just add a dust and scratches. And I'm putting this on just because I want to demonstrate the difference between digital effects that are integrated in Premiere and another way of doing it whereby you pre-record a clip and add the two together. So here's my clip. I'm just going to add some dust and scratches to it. So I've dragged the dust and scratches on. Can just up the radius, threshold, I can play around with those. And you can see there's some marks coming along there. Might need rendering. That's taken a while. You can see that adding effects that way is quite information heavy for Premiere to process, and it's not necessarily that effective either. So for all that effort, we don't have much in the way of noise, and dust and scratches going on there. There's a much nicer way to do it. So if I grab another clip there, and this time I'm going to use the overlay effect that we imported when we brought the footage in. So this is called overlay scratches. So that was in the pack. So with the overlay selected, I'm going to choose screen from the blend modes. And these work in exactly the same way as Photoshop, so you will have come across them before. Put a screen on the overlay. Now you can see the dust and scratches. I'm just going to clip this here now. So you can either use the cutting tool or just grab the end and pull it back so that the overlay is the same length as the guitar. I'm just going to pull each of these up so that they all boot together. There we go. So you'll notice when you pull something onto the next one, you see this little triangle, and it just shows that it's in the right place. And then I've got another little clip there that I can export that's got effects on it. So export media. Check where it's going, check what it's called. I'm just going to export that.